Again, I always appreciate subscriptions if you like the content. Today I'll be looking at Fallout from Fantasy Flight Games in 2017. Of course, it's based on the awesome video game. It's for 1 to 4 players. I've not heard a lot about it, and I'm surprised. On the outside it looks pretty good, and the prices seem very reasonable for it on eBay, so we'll check it out. It's a good sized box, kind of typical in size for large modern bookshelf games. A post-nuclear board game for 1 to 4 players, designed by Andrew Fisher and Nathan Hajek. Art, of course, is very consistent with the video game, which is kind of retro 50s look. Welcome home. The wasteland is a dangerous place. Resources are scarce, ulterior motives abound, and deadly enemies greet you at every turn. In Fallout the board game, your actions can have dire consequences. Completing quests changes the course of your adventure, and the choices you make during your chance encounters can change what the populace thinks of you. Should you assist the railroad or help the Institute? Will the Brotherhood of Steel prevail over the Enclave? Can you discover the secret of Vault 84? Grab your friends, get special, and win influence over the wasteland with Fallout the board game. It's got 5 nice plastic figures. 2017, developed with Bethesda SolidWorks LLC and with Fantasy Flight Games. It says it plays, it's 14 plus, 1 to 4 players, plays in 2 to 3 hours. Credits, looks like it's a joint effort here with the Fantasy Flight Games, Bethesda Softworks, and Asmodee North America. Fantasy Flight Games, Game Design and Development, Andrew Fisher and Nathan Hajek. Producer Molly Glover. Editing and proofreading, Board Game Manager James Niffen. Graphic Design Monica Helen and Evan Simonet. Graphic Design Manager Brian Schoenberg. Map Tile Art Ben Zewifel. Art Direction Eddie Christensen. Sculpting shown here. Managing Art Director, Managers, Creative Director Andrew Navarro. Asmodee North America. Licensing Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Development. Here's the box for the components in it. The size of the box seems about right for all the components, which I think is good that they can be in there, that they can be kind of packed pretty efficiently in there. It's got, pretty simple storage solution, just this folded cardboard. You put items, underneath this cardboard as well, so that's the kind of the storage solution. Got the rules reference here, 16 pages. And this review and play, I'll demonstrate the rules, during the play rather than going through all details of the rule book. And also a useful learn to play reference, 16 pages also. Some good images and examples. My son is way more familiar with the video game than I am, but from what I gather, you get a lot of these kind of contrasting images. You have the harsh reality of the post-nuclear holocaust world, and then you have this positive imagery of kind of 50s optimism. It's kind of fun, the difference. And for each of these 5 characters, you have the miniature, the special token. On the other side of these, it's one of the special, letters. And then you also have the character cards. You have the Vault Dweller, the Wastelander, Super Mutant, Brotherhood Outcast, and Ghoul. Miniatures are very well done. And for the 5 different characters on the flip side of their character card, they have special items and or abilities. For instance, the Vault Dweller's got a vault suit and shows its benefits here. Armor. The Wastelander has a weapon, tire iron, super mutant. Gets some XP advantages. The Brotherhood Outcast has some good armor. The Ghoul has some hit point advantages. It has 21 map tiles. They're nice and robust and thick and pretty good size. There's 3 types. You have some that have this green warning indicator in the back, and some have the reddish orange warning indicator in the back, and the flip side is locations and spaces. For both of them. Then you have this third set of tiles, which doesn't have the red or the reddish orange or green warning symbols on the other side. It's just location. There are locations on both sides. And your setup scenario dictates which types of random of these reddish orange or green warning tiles you place, or these given locations that you place. Then as you build up the map, you build up with the tiles. And within the tiles you have several different locations within a tile, divided by the white lines. And I like how they do the tracking on the different cards for the 1 to 4 players, and each of the 1 to 4 players has one of these tracking cards. You have these indicators for hit points. You move down, radiation indicators, experience point indicators. Move them along during play. And then for it, then you place your special tokens in these slots. Different traits, hold here. And you acquire different armor, that you keep the cards here. Different weapons keep here. Might acquire companions. For instance, here's a robot. Then and you place your other cards here. And then there's 3 unique vesti. All the components are very well done. And there are 4 scenario sheets. On one side it shows the scenarios with objectives. And this is a faction track of different factions, and it can affect their abilities and how successful they can be. And the other side of the scenario is the setup, which shows the setups of the tiles, including the green and reddish orange ones, and the given sites. These are the quest action cards, objectives. Some have multiple on here, and then results, and then some narrative. And then the encounter actions. There's the Wasteland, Settlement, and Vaults. Vault 109 and 84. And here you have you read these items, the narrative, and this, and then you wait to read what's in blue. Then of the smaller cards, you have there's 14 perk cards, 34 loot cards, 25 asset cards, 11 unique asset cards, 23 agenda cards. Here's the flip side. For instance, 1 per card is a sniper. Affects use of weapons course. Example of loot is water. With With the water you can recover hit points, and these numbers in the bottle caps here are their cost. And then some 25 asset cards, Edictal. There's 11 unique asset cards, and for instance the Shish Pop affects fighting. And then the 23 agenda cards is an example. Untouchable, get some bonuses. There's 27 enemy tokens, and you can see they're in different kinds of general groupings here. As you flip them over on the side, on their face-up side, gives a little more detail. And you have the name, the type, the level, the vets, vulnerability, and the abilities. And the currency in the game is caps tokens from sodas. There's 54 of them in the denominations of 1 and 5. There's 8 quest markers, 35 special tokens, and on the back side it's got the image, but on the flip side, on the face up side, it spells out the special. Got the faction tokens, there's 10 total of those. Power tokens, 2 of those. And then 12 trade tokens. On one side is one value, on the other is there's another value. That's all the components, and we'll get into play. Getting the setup and play here. Out of the 4 scenarios you can choose from, I chose to do the capital wasteland. And the scenario shown here, setup is shown here with the green, the reddish orange tiles, and then the predefined crossroads camp, the tower, Mega 10, the mall, and Project Purity hexes. Place a star faction token on the tower. Place a quest marker shown. This is the vertibird wreck. From this scenario, the quest card we use is 044, so we stage that. And it's got a couple objectives on it. The mountains around you shake suddenly, fire and rubble spewing violently into the sky. Eyes wide, you watch as a fleet of vertibirds scramble from their peaks to clear the violent blast. The straggler of the group begins to emit a trail of smoke as the rest disappear over the eastern horizon, then abruptly drops out of sight with a dull explosion that echoes up from the capital wasteland. One objective is to look for survivors, the wreck. The other is to find someone who knows what the hell just happened. And these are results if you complete those objectives. And then as you flip over here, the 2 factions I have going, the star factions, which will have their indicator on the tower, is the Brotherhood of Steel. Brotherhood of Steel, led by Elder Lions, fights to protect the people of the wasteland from super mutants and other threats. The other faction is the Enclave. It's the shield emblem. Commanded by the mysterious President Eden, the Enclave blasts propaganda promising a return to the glorious days of pre-war America. Then you place the powers for both factions on the card. At the highest level. Have the game set up as indicated on the card. And we have our player trackers here, whether red exposure is set to 0, hit points are set to the maximum, 16. Spirit points are set to the low level here for both of them. Then you have your miniature Got the super mutant miniature and his special indicator. And his card, super mutant. During setup, become a super mutant. Play this card in your play area. It does not count against your inventory limit and cannot be traded or discarded. For each radiation damage you suffer, gain 1 XP. And then up here, I have the Outcast Brotherhood member for the miniature. When performing a move action, gain a 1 movement point instead of 2. You gain 1 movement point instead of 2. During your turn, you may pay 1 cap to ignore this effect until the end of your turn. And that's an armor. Take your special token that you have. It's us for the super mutant. And for the Brotherhood member, he's got an eye. And then for each of them, you draw one more special from the random pile. You'll get an A. And if you get one you already have, you just draw another. And he draws, gets an L. Puts on his track. For the encounter decks, you take the ones with the star in the corner, those are starting encounters. And you place starting encounters in the camp pile for starting encounters, and then also the wasteland starting encounters. You take the rest that aren't starting encounters in the wasteland, camp, or vaults, and you put them numerically in order. And this will be the card library. Shuffle the loot and asset decks, and you have them face down the play area. Then you also put the perk cards and the unique asset cards in the play area, and the 3 vet dice. And take a look at the cards in the agenda deck. And I'm going to be doing 2 players. And you take out all the cards with a number greater than the number of players you're doing. So this would be 3 plus, take that out. 3 plus, no, etc. Take them out. So in the agenda cards, I just have 1 plus and 2 plus cards left in there since I have 2 players. Shuffle them and put them in the play area. Get rid of these other ones for this game. Then you create this shop by taking the top 4 cards off the asset deck. Here we have a GCK, Stimpack, Lab Coat, Hazmat, and this is the cost in caps to get them. The survivors I'll be playing are the Super Mutant and the Brotherhood Outcast. Got their cards set up here, and you take them and you place them in one of the areas of the Crossroads camp. Each player gets 3 caps. Then they each draw a agenda card, which they'll keep secret from the other players. Brotherhood Outcast gets freedom. At the start of your turn, you may reveal this card to declare loyalty to the Brotherhood. And this player gets the security agenda. Plus an agenda, free space. The Enclave has advanced farther than the Brotherhood. At the start of your turn, you may reveal this card to declare your loyalty to the Enclave. And if there's any starting effects you have to resolve on the scenario card, you take care of that. And there's no starting effects I need to take care of in this scenario. Then each of the hexes where you have an enemy, put the appropriate type there based on the image. We have three different enemies. Then you flip them over face up, see what they are. We have a looter, a deathclaw, and a super mutant skirmisher. Then we'll get into the first turn of play. So the way it plays out is in a game round. The first player takes a turn, then the second player takes a turn, and if there's other players, of course, they take a turn. Then after the players have gone, the enemies on the map activate an attack. And for the player's turn, they can do 2 actions. And the actions they can take are explore, move, quest, encounter, fight, and camp. And you can do one of those twice if you want. The Brotherhood Outcast will go first. And he'll choose the move action. When you do a move action, you have 2 movement points. To move into a regular terrain, which is surrounded by the kind of whitish borders, it costs 1 movement point. To go into a difficult terrain, which are those sections surrounded by a reddish border, it costs 2 movement points because that's difficult terrain. If it's surrounded by a green border, it means it's irradiated, and you suffer 1 red damage when you move into this space. So we'll do his movement. He'll go up to this section. Just used 1 movement point. But he's at a border now and he wants to explore, so he won't use his second movement point. Do an explore action. So when a space with a border touches a face down map tile, you can do the explore action to flip it face up. And for orientation, you have the arrow pointing the same direction as the starting arrow. So those are his 2 actions. And if there's any enemy icons on the map, you draw a random enemy token type and place it face up in that space. And there is one, so I'll get 1 token for that. And the enemy group is kind of the B symbol there, so take that and see what it is. It's a stingwing. And then the super mutant will go. He's adjacent to an unexplored hex, so he'll do explore first. Can you align the arrows so they're all pointing in the same direction there? There's also an enemy on this one. See what it is. Red Scorpion. Now I can choose his next action. He'll take 1 movement to move here. He could use 1 more movement after that to move into here, but I think he'll just stay. Now go to the enemy phase. And you activate enemies, and if they're not in a combat space with a player, you'll move them 1 space closer. And the enemies you activate are shown on the agenda card. You turn over the top card, the agenda card deck. See what you get. And down here you see the orders in which the enemies are activated. In this case, only the enemies with the kind of insect symbol are activated. You don't need any of the other information for this part. So go ahead and activate the insect enemy grouping. It's got a couple of those. It's got 1 there, he's already in a combat space, so he'll be attacking. This one will be moving 1 step closer. These other ones aren't in those categories. Then we do a fight action between this monster and the super mutant player. Firing this combat, so he rolls a 3 bat dice, and if he scores a hit in these vulnerable regions of the enemy, he'll do at damage. And it's a level 1. If he gets any like asterisks on it though, then he takes damage himself equal to the level of the monster. So we'll see what happens. He's got one in here that's a vulnerable area. Hits him in the head, but that's not vulnerable. Hits him in the belly, but that's not vulnerable, so he does one hit. Combat's pretty tough. So monster takes 1 hit damage, which will eliminate him because he's only a level 1. And you have to hit equal to or greater than the number of levels it has. But the monster gets to do his damage first, and his damage is you do points of damage equal to the level of the monster for each of these asterisks you roll, and there's 2 of them, so he's level 1, so it's 2 points of damage he takes. So he'll reduce his hit points by 2, down to 14 now. But the monster is eliminated. If you don't eliminate the monster, you don't accumulate damage points. They'll be at full health the next time if you don't kill him that turn. And looking at his abilities, he doesn't have any ranged weapons, which would show here, so he can't attack any beyond his square. So that's the end of the monster turn. That's the end of the monster's turn and the end of that round as well. Then we'll go to the next round. The Brotherhood Outcast is going. And he's got this armor, which basically he only gets 1 movement point instead of 2, since his armor is heavy basically. Didn't affect him last time because he only moved 1 anyway. You can use 1 cap token to get rid of that penalty so you can actually move 2. And he's going to do that. He's going to spend 1 cap because he doesn't have a ranged weapon yet. So he's got to move into that area. And it costs 2 movement to go into a difficult terrain. So he needs both those 2 of those movement points. You move here, and then he'll fight. It's a Stingwing with those vulnerable areas. It's a level 2, which is pretty tough. Does 1 damage, but the others don't hit in vulnerable areas, so Stingwing's still okay. But he's got 2 asterisks, so he takes 2 times 2 or 4 damage himself. He has armor though with a value of 2, and this value allows him to cancel 2 points of damage from this battle, so instead of taking 4, he'll take 2 points damage. So we'll move it down the track. Now he's at 14 instead of 16. So that fight wasn't resolved, and they just say that. So he did both his actions. Now the super mutant will go. So for his actions, he's going to do a combination of move and encounter. He'll move 1 spot to Ashbury Road. And then for his action of encounter, he'll draw the card that corresponds to camp. Shown here. Several super mutants are being used as beasts of burden outside of town. Their masters are cruel, but the plots of earth are ripe with well-tended crops. So 1. Forced if you're a super mutant, and he is. Looks like we got another one. The closest man shouts, running toward you. You draw and fight. He's got a bounty hunter that's got loot and a ranged weapon. Level of 2, and those are his areas of vulnerability. See what happens. 1 hit, 2 hits, so he's gone. As far as the damage, there's 3. And He's level 2, so it's 3 times 2 or 6. Quite a bit of damage. So mark it down the track. It's down to 8 now. Kind of showing how the XP works here. When he defeated the first monster in the first enemy in the first turn, he moved his XP up to where his first special marker is, which was the S. And now that he defeated another, but this one's got level 2, he moves it 2 more spots. And you move the XP up to where your next special marker is, which is A. Then you move it 1 more spot, so he's back. Then moves back here to the beginning, and then this next spot. And since he completed the sequence of going across the special, he gets another special token. You randomly draw 2 from the special pile. And these will be useful. Sometimes certain weapons will allow you to re-roll if you have the appropriate special marker on the board. He can draw 2 special tokens randomly from the pile, and he gets an S and a P. And you choose which one to keep. And if you already have the one that you choose to keep, then you get a perk instead. So he's going to take a perk, and you can look at the pile and see which perk. Then you return the 2 special tokens back to the random pile. It has to be a perk with an S on it. Go to our options are here. S, armor. Discard a camp to gain an apparel item from the shop or from any discard pile. So that's nice. I'll go with that one. It's a nice perk to have. But it does get loot. So we'll draw a loot card. Water. During your turn, you may discard this card to recover 5 hit points. That's nice. Then you suffer 1 radiation damage. It's good to have though. Still has 1 move left, but doesn't really need to use that because he'll be adjacent Texas here anyway. So that'll be the end of his turn. Then we activate monsters. Again, I'll turn over the top card of the agenda deck. And the order of activation here for enemies is the Enclave. It's kind of robotic symbol grouping and the insect grouping. And we don't have any Enclave active or this kind of robotic grouping active. So we'll go right to the what I call the insect grouping, and we'll activate them. There's only 1 insect group enemy to activate, and that's the Stingwing. He's already with his survivors, so he'll stay here, and we'll do combat. These are his vulnerability areas. Our hero is down to 14 hit points. It's a pretty good roll. He just takes 1 hit, 1 damage there to the chest, another damage to the chest, so he gets rid of the Stingwing. It's a level 2, which is nice. But he does take 1 times 2 points damage, but since he has his T-Power armor, he can withstand those 2 points of damage and doesn't take any. So it works out well, but he'll get experience points for that. Then for his experience points, he moves up to the next special, moves up to the next special token, and then the next special token. So that's the end of that turn. Then we'll go to the next one. This turn I'll keep working towards completing the quest. And the quest, it's got a couple parts. One is to go to the wreck, which is where the marker is. That's where the vertebrate went down. And the other is to go to Megaton and try to get some information about what happened. So he only gets one movement, but he'll move up here and he'll explore. It would be nice to try to buy some stuff here, but once they camp on a site, might be an option. If they're on a site, sometimes you get an encounter where you can do that, but they don't have enough money to do that. But he covers this. Is that the Super Duper Mart? And there's one monster here. It's from the Skull Group. See what it is. It's a Raider Psycho, 2nd level. That's the end of his turn. So he's going to the crash site and he's going to work towards Megaton. He'll explore this tile. He's next to some radiation, but that's okay with him. When he goes, the green bordered areas have radiation, are radiated. So, but as a super mutant, when he goes in there, if he takes radiation damage, he also gets 1 experience point for each. But he'll also take the water. He's got this item water. Gives him 5 hit points, but he suffers 1 radiation damage because the water is irradiate. He'll do that because he's getting a little bit low in hit points. He's down to 8, but by doing this, he'll go back up to 13. Move him up there, but he takes 1 radiation damage. And when his hit points goes below what his radiation damage is, the character's dead. He'll move in here. He's got 2 movements. Go here, take 1 radiation damage. And then he'll go in this area. So it takes 1 more radiation, but by taking the radiation, he gets 1 more experience point. So that's the end of that turn. And then we go to the activate monster stage. Take the agenda cards. Flip them over. And here you activate a faction. In this case, it's the Enclave. And they'll move 1 spot towards the survivors. Just first activated, second activated. Is this like DNA kind of group, which is, there's 1 of those here. They move one step towards them, but it's a little bit unclear what to do when these haven't been discovered yet. But I'll just put him on this hex. There's no more of that type of monsters, so none others are activated. Then we go to the next turn. So he wants to go up here and combat this enemy. He can normally move one, but if he spends one top, one cap, he can move two. And two, and then he'll combat the Raider Psycho. Roll the dice. The Raider Psycho is aggressive. When it moves into your space, or you move into its space, you'll immediately fight it. And also, it's got loot. He does 1 damage, and then 1 more damage, so Psycho's gone, but unfortunately he does damage to him as well. It's 1, 2, 3, and he's level 2, so it's 6. But his armor absorbs 2 of those, so he takes 4 points damage. So he's down to 10. And he kills him. Gets 2 experience points for that. He was at the end of his value there. He goes back to the beginning, and then 1, 2. He levels up since he went back over the special. Draws 2. And he gets to choose one of those. He'll go with the p-value. And then he gets some loot. His combat knife. During a fight, each time you spend a result, except for 1 damage. And since he has 2 A's there, if he has an A in the special, he can re-roll twice. But he doesn't have an A there yet. It's nice to have. And now he'll move to Megaton. So he can complete this action. That's his 1 action. Then the other he's going to use to complete this part of the quest. Find someone who knows what the hell happened in Megaton. Place the Enclave on Project Purity. 2 loot at stage 4867. And the second loot is the Tesla Science magazine. When you camp, if you do not have the special eye token, you may discard this card to gain 2 XP. And then as far as the 2 staged cards here, 67 and 48. 48, the Enclave was long believed to be dead and gone, so their vertibird soaring over the capital. Wasteland has set Megaton a buzz. You get a lead, but it's shaky. Intelligent supermutant appeared in the city around the same time. He spoke of a personal quest to ensure the safety and survival of all, then disappeared into the hills. One super mutant, nope. Go help, and super mutant, nope. Go help any Enclave survivors instead. The wreck. Go to the wreck. Or track down and assist the super mutant. Mutant to Vault 84. And then Vault Rumors. Every year, new unfortunates appear out of the wasteland, claiming to have been banished from an underground bunker made before the war by a company called Vault Tech. Perhaps it is worth investigating. When many Vault exiles are caught by raiders, you might be able to get something off of them if you kill any skull monsters. 2. See if you find an old exile who will sell you information. Go to any camp and spend 4 caps. So hopefully that gives you a bit of sense how to play it. So that's my look at Fallout from Bethesda and Fantasy Flight Games from 2017. I enjoyed it. Components are great. I'm not that familiar with the video game, but from what I can tell, it seems to follow the theme somewhat. I like that it's got an interesting combat system. You gather equipment. You got different missions that are kind of go through a story. There's some exploration. So there's a lot going for it. Some people may not like it because it's not like a cooperative game. I mean, everybody's kind of going out for themselves, which is kind of old school, and I like that. Recommend it. I wouldn't put it in the top tier games that I've reviewed, but it's a good game, and I'm glad I have it. Thanks a lot.